Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Valerie Hope, and you have just joined Time to Come Alive. This is a weekly opportunity to listen into inspirational conversation around how to become more conscious as an individual, how to connect to your community, and also be more creative. And every week we have this fantastic opportunity to listen in and have a conversation with a person that I admire, that I emulate, the person I learned so much from. And today is no exception. Today I have a very special friend that's going to be talking in just a few moments. Before I formally introduce her, I would love for you all, if you're listening to this or watching this, to share this with your community. Either post it on your social media platforms, or perhaps make sure that you communicate or listen in with somebody that you care about, because I'm sure it'll open up some wonderful conversations between you and those that you are close to. Now, we begin every session with a mindful moment. Today's mindful moment is actually brought by our guest. So let me introduce her first before we jump into that. First of all, Sandy, thank you so much for being here. Today we have Sandy Monogue. She is a woman of many talents. The talents that have most impressed and impacted me are her storytelling abilities. She's just very animated. But one of the things, and Sandy, I've known you for 4 years now, maybe 5?
Probably 5.
5 years now. And what's interesting is, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, it's fairly recent, you and I go to the same church, went to the same church at the time, and you were the person responsible for prayer for the congregation. And for whatever reason, I was drawn to actually having prayer time with you, just one-on-one. And I remember your prayer blew me away. It was so, I don't know if I've ever had the experience of prayer being, and this may not be the most PC way to say this, but it was fun. There was so much life and enthusiasm and joy and lightness, and it was actually quite transformative just listening to it, because it was a version of prayer that I had never experienced before. And it felt so much more, it felt deeper to me than some of even the prayers that I do for myself. So I thought, okay, there's something interesting here. And ever since then, you've been my prayer partner. And I've so appreciated your willingness to have phone calls with me. We do it over the phone. We've done it in person. I mean, pretty much anytime I can get a Sandy prayer, it's a good day. So, but I don't, it's one thing to talk about what your prayers are and how they're done, and another to actually experience it. So Sandy, if you would do us the honor of our session today, it's going to have a spiritual slant. So I think this is an opportunity for us to share what that prayer experience might be. If you'd like to use our mindful moment to open with a word of prayer for us and for our listeners.
I would be honored.
Yay! Thank you.
Well, let's all just take a very deep breath. In and out. One more. Deep breath in and out. And we just feel more relaxed, more centered. Sweet Spirit, God, we are so honored to feel that presence within us that is you. That spark of divinity that everyone has in them. And you might just feel an opening in your heart right now. Feel that opening of that spark of divinity, that light, that love within you. that is within every person on this planet. And as we honor that within ourselves, we honor that within other people. And we begin to see and feel that in ourselves, and we begin to see it and feel it in others. Loving one another more. We feel so grateful to be in this body, to experience life, and then to start awakening to our divinity. This unconditional love, this joy, this peace that is here available for us in every moment as we learn now to live in each and every moment fully, expressing our aliveness, which is spirit, which is God. Feeling ourselves come more alive. Feeling every cell tingle and sparkle with this light, because it does. On our journey in life, it's easy to become complacent, stay in one place. But always God is nudging us in our heart to go forward, to try something new, a new adventure, the unknown. And in our humanness, we can be afraid of the unknown. We won't do it right. We won't say the right things. We won't look right. But the unknown is our growth. It's our expansion of who we really are, this divine light. It wants to grow. It wants to sparkle more. And it wants others to see this and feel this so they can shine and sparkle too. A time to come alive. Maybe in this moment now we could search our heart. What is it that is calling us to do? But maybe we're afraid. And we say, I can't do that. But always God, Spirit, is nudging us forward. Because that's our gift, that's our talent, to give it to the world. So Spirit moves you forward. Yes, you can, yes, you can, yes, you can. Become more alive. Give your gift freely, no matter what it looks like. Because you are experiencing God. God wants you to be out here, to be free, uninhibited, and to be more of what you can be. Coming alive. Whatever it is, take that step. If it's only an inch, move forward. Because as we move forward, we start to feel more alive, walking the path, not knowing what it may bring, but it's okay. Sweet Spirit, We know that you are guiding and leading us, nudging us forward. So we take a deep breath. We walk the path. We spread our arms out far. We take the plunge as if we're diving into a pool. We let go, we let God. We fly into the moment as if we're diving into a pool. And we allow you to come forth. This love, this joy, this peace in every moment. We become more aware, alive and awake. And what a thrill that is. What a thrill that is to walk into the unknown peacefully and say, I'm free, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to open up and be more. So, sweet Spirit, thank you for this moment of opening up with Valerie, coming alive with this divine spark of light that is within me, Valerie, and everyone. Giving our gifts, no matter what it looks like. Thank you, thank you, thank you, sweet Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Wow. Thank you so much, Sandy. I'm curious, first of all, what's your inspiration for your prayer? What's your, how do you connect in such a way that you express what you just expressed?
By what's happening in the moment. When I became a prayer chaplain at Unity, as people would present me what they wanted to pray about, I would just be in the moment with that situation and then start a prayer to vibrate more aliveness into what the person wants to pray about. Mm. So it's being in the moment.
Yeah. Love that.
And what gave me inspiration is your program is about coming alive. Mm-hmm. So in this moment, I just took your title of coming alive and just kind of going with it and letting Spirit say what Spirit wants to say about that.
So you didn't write any of this down? There was no preparation. You simply just said what was on your heart?
I just kind of go with whatever's happening in the moment. And I used to do that. I used to kind of have a preset prayer, but I don't anymore. And sometimes I'm really surprised just what I say, because I'm going, oh my gosh, I didn't plan on saying that. But if we really allow ourselves to be free and to let God speak through us, some amazing things can really happen.
So true. And actually that points me back to, I want to talk about what happened earlier today, because I think it's a great introduction and it really does cement this idea of unleashing our self-expression. So to give you all a little context here, This is the 44th episode of Time to Come Alive, Sandy. So congratulations. 44th episode. So I've done this over the past year several times. And I would say out of the 44, there have been at least 30, maybe even 35 or so guests, right? Where I've had someone like you, Sandy, come and share some interesting concept or share their story, etc. Typically, we do a little preparation prior to the session. Immediately before we go live, we do a little prep, especially making sure the tech and everything is working. So today was no exception. And unfortunately, the technology didn't work for us today. And Sandy and I spent like 30 minutes, Sandy, was it?
Yes.
30 minutes going back and forth. I'm like, okay, try this and see if you can zoom that. And which is one of the reasons why today's episode is audio only, because we just were not able to connect the video, and there are a few challenges that we had. But I love what when we finally decided, okay, we're just going to do this on audio, and here's how it's going to work. I love how you responded. So Sandy, if you would just to share with people what was happening for you at the moment we were having that challenge with the technology.
I was feeling frustration, and my ego was really getting into it because I got all dressed up and I thought, oh, I'm going to be on a video. The frustration was mounting, but at that moment, I said to myself, I'm going to persevere with this. I'm going to grow with this. I'm just going to be with the feeling. Let it be whatever it is. Feel it. But yet at the same time, somehow this is going to work. I don't know how it's going to work, but I really feel somehow it will work. So there were multiple things going on at that time. But I was allowing myself just to be in this moment with you. The technology wasn't working. I wasn't going to be on video. And you said, okay, let's try audio. And that didn't work. And we just kept persevering. And that's what life is all about, is not giving up.
Yeah.
Your desire, my desire was to be on the show with you this morning. So you and I did not give up. We just kept trying different things. Mm-hmm. What I'm learning what I'm learning with life is learning to roll with it. Keep your desire in your mind. And there may be blocks that come up that say, oh, this isn't going to happen. You can't do this. However, the spirit within us, can do anything. Nothing is impossible for God. Nothing is impossible for spirit. So if you keep that within you and you just keep feeling, okay, I can do this somehow. I'm going to go over the blocks. I'm going to go with them and I'm going to go over them. And that's what life is all about, because we all have challenges. And sometimes we give up. The challenge is too big. We think we can't do it. But that is our humanness. God can do anything. Spirit can do anything. Even if it looks insurmountable. There are people that are cured of cancer and they don't have chemo and they don't have radiation. Because they've allowed spirit to heal them. So for me, if I can remember that my humanness at this point cannot overcome whatever the obstacle is, but spirit can, and spirit does, and spirit will, if we have the willingness to walk with it.
Absolutely. 100%. I could also experience frustration. I don't remember feeling frustrated as much as just I was concerned. I was worried primarily about you. Like, I hope she doesn't completely throw this. No, I don't want to do this. It's not meant to be, which I think sometimes happens, right? Because we try something, like you said, and perhaps it doesn't work out or doesn't work out the way we expect. I think one thing that I've learned in life is there's a very deep distinction between being attached to something and being committed to something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and for me, attachment has more to do with there's a desired outcome. There's a picture, an expectation in my mind about what things should look like, how it should go, how I should feel, what I should, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas commitment is when I get really clear, which is, I believe, what happened even today in light of this challenge, get really clear that this is a forum for self-expression, right? Even though this session specifically is to address self-expression, like, okay, so how does one continue to self-express no matter the obstacle? Perhaps this vehicle doesn't work for this self-expression, but maybe there's another one. The self-expression doesn't necessarily need to be stymied, stopped, cut off, simply because the vehicle that, you know, that I attached to, or the one that I expected, wasn't working. And I think it was an exercise for both of us, clearly, but I think it was an exercise in just in being unstoppable. My mom would call it stubborn, but you know. and also open, and I think it does bring out creativity. And like I said, being conscious, connected, and creative is really the basis of being alive, from my perspective. So let's talk a little bit about kind of your journey, because from what I know and what you've shared with me in past conversations, this hasn't always been a part of you, right? This level of self-expressiveness, for example. Can you talk to us a little bit about what was it like before you started to open up in this way and allow things to be transmitted through you?
What was it like before?
Yeah, what was your life like before?
Really, this began, like I stated before, that as I became a prayer chaplain, I had to get in front of the congregation and say prayers and pray with people. I noticed at that point I started becoming more animated. I was also going to Toastmasters. I belonged to a storytelling group. I was allowing myself to be more of what I really wanted to be, which was a more outgoing person, a more talkative person. Basically, I'm very shy and quiet. But as I began all of these processes, they were all going on at the same time, I began to talk more, to open up more, to become more alive, to speak words of passion. And I think my passion really started to bloom as I did all of these things at the same time. So the shyness, the quietness started to leave, and I began to open up more and be more of an open person, open with my feelings, open with who I really am, and to share with people.
Oh.
So before, and that was about 4 years ago, before that time frame, I was just content to be shy and quiet and not say too much.
Were you really content?
No, I wasn't. But
got you. Okay, so what was it really like?
So perhaps in that state that I was in, when all of these avenues started to open up, I just allowed it to be. I just became freer.
Mm. Mm. So let's go
Free.
back. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I think it's important to note, especially for anyone listening here, that what you said is really interesting, that you were content to just be quiet and shy. And when I asked if you were really content, you said no. So let's talk about that, because I think we might all talk ourselves into just accepting what is kind of the status quo for ourselves. We've always kind of been this way, or I became this way and it's worked, or it's not worked, but it's okay, right? We just kind of, I guess, accept might be a good word for it. But can you talk a little bit about what was it like to be quiet and shy and yet not content? Why were you not content?
It felt like a prison, but I didn't know how to break out of the prison. So as these avenues started to open up, there was a lot of fear, especially going to Toastmasters, giving speeches in front of people. But I had to walk through my fear. And I knew that at the time. I was walking through the unknown, because you're critiqued at Toastmasters on your presentation. So I was just allowing myself to break out of my shell. And that doesn't feel comfortable. I can imagine now what maybe a chicken or, feels like as they break out of that shell, as you're pecking at the shell. It doesn't feel comfortable, but I know that as we move forward, we are getting out of our comfort zone. And it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. But yet the growth feels good. It's like, oh my gosh, I really am doing this. I really can do this. And I think that's with all of us as we move into something new. That comfort zone leaves us, that little cushy chair that we've been sitting in, and we're all wrapped up in our blanket, and all of a sudden the chair begins to be pulled out from under us. The blanket comes off, and all of a sudden there's the unknown and there's fear. And to move into that takes courage. But all of us have to do it with life. Otherwise, we're going to sit in a room and sit in our comfortable chair with a blanket on and never grow and never do anything.
Yes. And watch Netflix and eat popcorn.
Yeah, chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
I will say, it's interesting you share that, the analogy of the chicken, right, or the chick trying to come out of the shell. I remember there was a point in my life where, my family, we're close, and we were, at least in the beginning, close in conversation. We talked and spent time together, that sort of thing. But we weren't very physically or emotionally demonstrative. We didn't tell each other I love you. We didn't hug. We weren't touchy-feely in that way. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I wasn't. And I didn't do that with my parents or my brothers. But I remember when one of my brothers had children, he began to have children. He now has 5. I have 3 brothers, and 2 of them between the 2, they have 9 kids. So we got plenty of mini hopes around. But what was funny is I remember spending time with them. They were living abroad at the time because he was in the military, and the kids were very young. I would say at that point, maybe around, I think the youngest was maybe like 3 years old or 2 years old, and the oldest was maybe like 8 or so. In any case, they had a dog, a black lab, whose name is Sam. And what was so interesting is I loved playing with the kids, You know, sometimes they were really engaged, other times they didn't want anything to do with me. I was the aunt that came to visit every year or two, right? So it wasn't like we were super close at the time. And I remember there were moments where I wanted to connect with them, or just kind of give them a hug or have them sit in my lap, but it felt so awkward. I just, you know, that shell that you were talking about, like I wanted to express my love to them somehow, because that's, you know, the language of children sometimes is physical affection, a hug or high five or tussle in the head or something like that. But I found myself being so awkward. So when they approached me, it was fine. And I was like, oh, I'll give them a hug. But if somehow I reached out and they shied away or something, then I would be like, oh, nope, never mind. But then I would turn to the dog, Sam, and I'm like, Sam, come here, Sam. Oh, come on. And I would, you know, play with Sam, and I'd rub Sam's head and under his chin, and all this. I would just unleash all this love and affection on the dog. But I felt so inhibited when when wanting to express that love and affection for the children. And it did feel like a jail. It felt like I just couldn't express that part of myself for whatever reason. So I've done some work since then. I've had a lot of wonderful transformative workshops, and really started to understand what love meant, why my family perhaps, you know, of origin was not as demonstrative. And we've since changed that. We now say, I love you every time we speak. My parents, my brothers, we hug, we, you know, that all of those things. The children now, and this is probably in the last 5 years, so it's been fairly recent. Now I hug them, even if they don't want to, and they all go through a period of time. And I know that sounds terrible if they don't want to, but you know, they're a little bit more half-hearted when they're teenagers. And I could also see that I don't make it mean anything about me. I don't make it mean anything about they love or don't love, or they love me today or they didn't love me today. But I feel that that amount of self-expression for me was so crucial. So I share all of that, Sandy, because I know that there's someone listening to this that's sitting there quite content, quote unquote, to sit on the couch with the cover and you know, and in that comfort zone like you described. But just to give them some context, how many years would you say you spent in that quote unquote contentment jail or shell?
Oh my goodness. Most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Which is quite a long span.
Yes, you do not have to reveal your age on air.
Really?
If you choose not to, you do not need to reveal that. So you would say most of your life. And,
Yeah.
and when you think back to most of your life, right, as you're looking back, what was the cost, you would say, to not having that freedom of expression throughout most of your life? What did it cost you?
It cost me the feeling of feeling left out, of not participating, of perhaps people thinking that I'm unsociable, that I don't want to be around them, that because I don't talk that much, because I don't express that much. And it didn't feel good, but I didn't know what to do about it. So I just remained quiet and shy and stayed in my little shell. I didn't start pecking out until the last 4 years. So it didn't feel good. It didn't feel comfortable, but yet pain can feel comfortable. You can get used to the pain and be okay with it. So that's what I would say that I did most of my life, is that I just stayed in the pain and stayed where I was.
And when you think back about the moments of staying in the pain, what did it feel like? Like I know this might be a little tricky to answer, but what was either the physical or the emotional experience of staying in the pain?
Alone. I felt alone. I felt very, very alone. I felt like nobody else is like this but me. it was the isolation, the desolation. It just, sometimes it would just be overwhelming, but I didn't know what to do about isolation. I did not know what to do.
Yeah.
So I just stayed in it.
Yeah.
And now since I'm a little more animated than I used to be, I notice people who are quiet and shy, and they don't say too much in a group or in a family setting. And I know what they're experiencing. They're just afraid. There's a fear that you just feel you can't overcome.
Yeah. I want to add to this because I want to be very cautious, but I want to let people know that there is a case for introversion, right? For someone being more reserved, perhaps more private, more contained in certain ways, right? There's a personality preference. And for anyone that's familiar with assessments like Myers-Briggs, that sort of thing, that they point that introversion is a form of really energizing oneself from within, right? And it can be somewhat draining to be around a lot of people or a lot of activity, and be expressive does take energy. So I want to make sure that that's clear. What I think you're pointing to that is really much more subtle, perhaps. There's a distinction, and is really in your emotional and the quality of emotional experience. If when you feel that your shyness or the introversion is costing you connection, which is what you described, and feeling alone and isolated. If that privacy, that quiet, reserved nature is costing you self-expression, you're not able to say what you want or do what you feel like you want to do, or the freedom is what I'm talking about. If you can experience a lack of freedom in your expression of introversion, then perhaps what Sandy's pointing to is really that you're in a shell, and it might be something to look at to break out of it. What would you say to that, Sandy?
Oh, definitely. That really describes it. When I started Toastmasters and praying in front of people and a storytelling group, I did feel the fear, but yet at the same time, I wanted to grow. I wanted to be more connected. I wanted to be more expressive. Yeah. And I had to walk through my fear. I knew if I wanted this, then I had to do it. I had to start pecking at the shell and breaking it open. And I'm still doing that more and more. And I'm doing that with your podcast as I'm breaking open the shell. I'm talking, I'm being expressive, and I'm talking about deep feelings that I usually don't talk about with people.
Yeah. And you've actually listened to this podcast. You participated once before. So if you look in the archives, guys, Sandy does a cameo appearance in February, I believe it was, where you did the meditation at the very beginning, the mindful meditation at the beginning. And I want to say it was the Valentine's Day episode, and it was about love, and it was beautiful. I remember we got a lot of comments about the meditation that you did, about the stars and the hearts and the arrows flying. I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was quite impactful. So check it out. I'll actually add it to the show notes so people could listen to that one again. And you've since been a listener on a couple of podcasts. So tell me a little bit about this experience, as you've heard others participate, or you've had a taste in the beginning, and now you're the feature. What's that experience like for you?
Freedom. Freedom to express who I really am, to say what I need to say, to feel what I need to feel. It's like I'm unthawing, like I've been frozen for most of my life. And as I'm opening up, I'm just feeling the ice melting, and as it melts, and again, this is, I'm just flowing with words and I'm flowing with my feelings right now. I didn't plan on saying this, but that's what it feels like. It feels like a big ice cube called Sandra, and she's just, she's just melting. And as everything melts away, I feel this spark of divinity within me growing. It becomes a flame. It becomes a, yes, I am this, and I'm here to express, and I'm here to feel, and I'm here to talk, and I'm here to play, and I'm here to grow, and I'm here to have fun. It's almost like becoming a child again. I was very repressed as a child. I had rheumatic fever, and I was in bed for a year. And after that was over, I was told I was sick and I couldn't do anything. So that tape has been rolling around my head since I was 6 years old. And so now I'm unwinding that tape and knowing I can do many things, and I'm not sick, and I can do things.
So at the time you had limits because of your physical ability, right? You just weren't well enough. But it sounds like somehow that message stuck. And again, I imagine when we're 6 years old, we hear things, and it just seems somehow that it becomes law. X. Interesting. And so, okay, I want to go back to, you said 4 years ago seems to be this magic time. Something unwound, and you were praying in front of the audience all of a sudden, and you started to, begin noticing that spark. But leading up to it, like, what was it that allowed you 4 years ago to begin to thaw that Sandra ice? What happened?
As I began to pray with people and for people, I got out of myself. I was really with this person, and I was really caring about what was going on with them. And so I allowed this divine spark within me just to be greater than myself, my humanness, and really connect heart to heart with this person and say words of encouragement to this person of whatever was going on in their life. So it's just letting go of me and my own problems and, my own stuff, my own issues, and just really being concerned and connected with them and caring about them in that moment more than what was going on with me.
So what I'm hearing is that your ability to contribute to someone, to actually be there as a contribution to someone, as opposed to be wrapped up in how do I feel, how do I look, what do I sound like, or is this weird, am I uncomfortable? Like really having stepped out of all of that noise and just being there for the other person was the path.
Yes. And since I feel this divine spark within myself, then I was able to see it within that person and connect heart to heart with that divine spark, that their divinity, what you might call God or spirit or whatever you want to call it, and make that the most important link in that moment and really focus on what their problem, what their challenge was, and say uplifting words to motivate that person to stick with it. Don't give up. Don't give up on your challenge, whatever it may be, health-wise or money or relationships. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Yeah. And so what's the next frontier? I mean, that was 4 years ago. You're clearly continuing to express yourself in your spirit through prayer, like you did earlier in this session. And it sounds like, your Toastmasters journey also helped you develop the ability to speak in front of the group. What's happening next? Where's this openness taking you?
Well, tonight I'm going to do something I've never done. I am going to be a fairy godmother, and then I'm going to dress the part. It's, I'm going to be going to the Rockwell Library and telling fairy tales in front of children. And what's going to be most important to me is to tell the fairy tale so that the child is there with me to connect with those children and to be in the fantasy and just be in the moment and to really be a fairy godmother and to really connect with a group of children.
Wow.
So that's what I'm going to do tonight.
Now, this is something you've never done before. What had you say yes to doing that?
Joy.
Say more.
To connect with joy. To connect with joy.
Like my company.
I'm learning. Yes.
Yes.
I'm learning as I expand into more of who I really am. I'm learning to feel joy. And what will give me joy? What can I do to make myself happy and others happy and just connect with joy and to feel joy? And so I'm learning to do that more and more as I move along on my journey in life, to feel joy and be happy.
And this is a different take also. How is this way of connecting with joy and just being more expressive in your life? What impact is that having on your relationships now?
I feel people really want to be around me more. I feel that people come up and talk to me more. They feel I'm more interesting as I open up and talk. I just feel a deeper connection with people.
Yeah. And may I ask, what's been the impact in your marriage? Because you've been married now to Bob for how long?
23 years.
23 years. So he's seen the frozen, shelled up version of Sandy. I'm curious, what's been the experience in your marriage?
Well, at first it was interesting because he felt that I shouldn't be talking so much. He felt that I was being more controlling because I would interrupt conversations so that I could jump in and join in. But now he doesn't feel that way. He actually, when I begin to talk, he will let me express myself and say what I need to say. So it had its moments, but I think when you start becoming different, people see you in a certain way, and then when you break that mold, they kind of react differently. It's like, oh, she's not doing what she's supposed to be doing, what she always does. She's doing something different.
Yeah. Did you hear that from other people besides Bob?
No, but I see reactions with people that I'm different than I used to be. And I just allow that to be okay and just to continue to be the way I am, because I'm learning that there might appear to be an obstacle out there. It's just an obstacle, and you can go around it, you can go through it, you can go many different ways, but just keep persevering. Just keep on doing what you want to do.
Yeah. No, I think that's wonderful, because I can imagine that some people would be stopped by the perception that others have of them. Well, they've never known me to be this way, or, oh, what are people going to think, or what are they going to say, or how are they going to react? And it sounds like for you, in having a conversation, obviously, clearly, Bob noticed that you were being different, and it sounds like it brought out a different level of conversation in the relationship, right? And I think that's usually what it takes, that we let people in our lives, especially those that are close, who might have a more direct experience of this newfound expression, that we let them know what's behind it, or what you're committed to inside of being more expressive. So I feel that it could be a bit jarring, depending on what the expression is, right? Because I remember in our family, my family, it's not like we had a conference call and said, okay, everyone, we will become more loving. We shall say I love you at the end of every phone call, and we will hug more often. Never happened. We never did. And when I shared with my brother, I remember he was the first one I shared, hey, this is what I'm committed to. I want to be able to express love freely to everyone, including our family. We just are not used to that. And he's like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. And then I love you. And that's it. And it's been that simple. So I think letting people in on kind of what the desire is, your desire to be more connected, or your desire to express yourself. That's what helps others also thaw out, I imagine. Has Bob thawed out at all?
Yes, he has.
We'll have to invite him on one of these days to talk about that.
I think really what motivated me to be more expressive is that you can get to a certain level of pain and it becomes too much. And you think, well, what can I do to change this? How can I alleviate this pain? So for me, going through these processes that I've gone through helped me alleviate the pain. And like you said, to be more expressive, to talk more, to hug more, to connect with people more, to tell them that you love them. Because none of us know, well, maybe some people do, but I don't know how long I've got to be on the planet. And so I just more and more as I move along my journey, I just want to let people know that I care about them and I love them and that I enjoy being with them and not being in my shell and not saying anything.
Yes. Oh, well, I have two final questions for you. I think one, let's start off with, what's something that you've learned in the last year? Right? So you mentioned growth, and growth being such an important, integral part of who you are now and what you want in life. What's something that you've learned, let's say in the last year, that has really contributed to that growth?
I've really been more aware of myself in the moment. What am I doing? What am I saying? Is this how I want to be in life? Learning to be more in the moment. A lot of times I will catch my mind thinking about the past or thinking about, well, what's going to happen next? But if I can pull myself back into this moment, this is where it's all happening. Past is gone. It's gone. The future isn't here yet. So if I can pull myself back into this moment, what am I feeling? What am I saying? What's going on? Am I connecting? What am I doing in this very moment? Then my life becomes richer. And I would say in the past year, I'm beginning to be much more in the moment.
That's huge. It does require some discipline. It does require.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And then the last, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of close out a bit of our conversation with a experience that you shared with me about your Toastmasters contest back in the spring, I believe it was. You had a speech contest. Can you tell us the story of what your speech was and what it took for you to give the speech that you gave? Can you just share with us? I think that's such a beautiful demonstration of everything that we've been talking about.
I decided to be unconventional and create something that I knew was going to be over the top for Toastmasters, but yet I felt I had to do it. I created my life story in a 7-minute speech. And my life story was about that when I was 35, I tried to commit suicide because I was married to an alcoholic and he left me. When I did not commit suicide, I did not have the courage to do it. I started going to Al-Anon, and I went to church. I went back to church. And those two avenues really started to open me up and see myself. So as I talked about this in my speech, I created a song, and I decided to sing. And the song was Singing in the Rain. Because when I found my second husband, I realized I was not attracted to abusive men anymore. And that's what I was working on in Al-Anon. So I took an umbrella and I opened it up and I started to sing. Singing in the rain, I'm singing in the rain. What a wonderful feeling. I'm happy again. And I was happy again because I realized I had broken my addiction to abusive men, and I was attracted to a healthy, loving person. So I had never seen anyone sing in a speech before in Toastmasters. But I really didn't care because I had to do this. I had to do it. And I did not win the contest. I came in third, which was okay with me because I felt I just have to do this. I just have to. And I got a big applause. And 4 women came up to me and said, thank you for having the courage to do this and to talk about this. The secretary of the club came up to me and said, did you notice all the clapping that went on? And did you notice the 4 women that really came up to you and in their heart they expressed that you opened up? And I said, yes, I did. And he said, maybe you didn't win the prize. Maybe you didn't come in number 1. But he said, I felt you were more successful than the person that came in because of what you talked about and the way you opened up and you sang a song. And so at that moment, I knew that, okay, this was okay for me to express myself. I broke the rules in Toastmasters. I don't care. I don't care. I felt free. And it really felt good that 4 women came up to me and really thanked me for doing what I did.
Oh, I love that story. And I think what you point to there is so profound. One is you were able in that moment to reveal a part of yourself that most people are not comfortable revealing in public anyway. Right? We like to try to make everything look pristine and great and perfect. And the fact that you brought out a painful period of your life in such a public forum, number one. I think also the wanting to sing as opposed to just give the speech. Although I don't know if there's a rule against singing, it's just not something that's commonly done. I also belong to Toastmasters, so I've not seen it anyways, but I think that level of expression is unique. But I think more importantly, what the gentleman, the secretary pointed out, I think is what you did to bring other people to life in that moment. And that's what it takes. I think you said this a couple of different ways, but this life is not about us living in a cage or a shell of being comfortable or status quo or not rocking and rocking other relationships. It's a process to becoming more deeply, more profoundly who we are and allowing that spark of divinity, like you said. And so much of that is found when we lose ourselves in contribution to others. And you connecting to yourself and your true self-expression also help spark the divinity in other people. That's what I see. And at least that's
I definitely agree with that. Yes, most definitely. And it does take courage to Step out and be different.
Yeah. Oh, it so does. And it's never too late. And I'm so thrilled for you, Sandy, because I think that you have absolutely altered the trajectory of your life. The trajectory not only of your life, your husband's life, your family, your friends, your community. I think anytime that we shift, it's like we're like each of us is like our own Halley's Comet. Right? Like and our trajectory will absolutely impact the tides, the rotation of the earth, the axis. All of those things can be impacted by how we shift and alter in our lives. So I just want to thank you so much for sharing with me this morning here in Texas, and also for being this expression of joy that I also get lit up from. Right? You're my source often. Like I said, I reach out to you for prayer on a regular basis, and I appreciate how much life you bring to my life as a result. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we sign off?
Just take a deep breath and come alive.
Yeah. Wiser words never spoken. Thank you so very much, Sandy, for your time and your lesson today for all of us. And I can only imagine that so many people will get what they need to out of what they've heard this afternoon or this time with you. I will, in the notes for the podcast, also add your Facebook page so if people want to connect with you. Would that be okay? Is there a way that people can reach out to you if they want prayer or if they want to share anything?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know about that. Sure, but we'll talk about how you guys can get a hold of Sandy. I'm not convinced that sure was actually sure. So, either way, we'll make sure, even if it's just going through me. But those of you that want to get a hold of Sandy, let me know, and I'd be happy to connect the two of you. So thank you once again, Sandy.
Thank you, Valerie.
Of course. Next week, guys, on Time to Come Alive, we also have a wonderful guest, Michelle Kinder. Michelle was director for the Momentous Institute here in Dallas, Texas for many years, and which really focuses on the cross section between mental and emotional health and education. And she's gotten some wonderful stories from her experience there, but more importantly, what she's doing now, how she's leveraging her experience, and really wants to talk about that connection between grief and joy and how that plays out in our lives. Looking forward to November 5th when we have that conversation with Michelle. Please join us once again for Time to Come Alive, and thank you all so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.